This is the ESP-201 Wi-Fi module. It's based on the popular ESP-8266 microcontroller chip that also includes the Wi-Fi circuitry on board. I bought 10 of these last year on AliExpress for $33. Nowadays you can buy the same 10 for about 25 bucks. This is not a stock version of the board that I bought. I made a couple of small changes. I changed the antenna jumper down here so that I could use the integrated antenna instead of the antenna jack. And I moved the 4-pin serial programming header from the bottom of the board up to the top, mainly so that I could insert it into a prototyping board, which I'm going to do right now. And it's inserted, and I'm going to now build up the rest of the circuitry that's needed in order to program the ESP-8266 from the Arduino environment. First thing I'm going to do is connect the power and ground pins. This is the ground. I'm going to connect that to the bus over here, and I'll connect the power from this pin here over to this bus. Next thing I want to do is connect a 1K ohm resistor, pull-up resistor, from the power down pin of the module. I want to pull it high so that the module isn't powered down, and that is from pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That comes from that pin and attaches to the 3.3 volt bus over here. If I can get them both in here without shorting anything out. Okay, that one's installed. Next I want to install the reset circuitry. I'm going to have a reset button, a tact switch I'm going to use for that. And I'm going to connect the reset pin, which is right below the power down pin. I'll attach that to one side of the switch, and the other side of the switch will go to ground. And I'll also put a 1K pull-up on that to VCC. Make the connection to 3.3 volts over here. And that's my reset circuit. I also need to toggle IO pin 0, which is the top pin over here. I need to pull that to ground when I need to put the chip into the programming mode. So I'm going to attach that to another switch, which I'm going to call the programming button. Put that over here. And I'll connect from the pin over to the button, and then from the button I'll go to ground, and there's no need for a pull-up on this particular IO pin. Okay, so that's the programming switch. Now I need to attach a few pins to various levels. IO pin 15 has to be attached to ground, and IO pin 15 is this pin right here at the very top on the right hand side. So I'll attach it to ground through a 1K ohm resistor. And IO pin 2, which is this pin over here right next to IO pin 0, and I don't know where IO pin 1 went to, but it's that's the way the pins are ordered on the module. So I'm going to take IO pin 2 and I'm going to run it down here to an empty row because I'm going to need a couple of connections to it. First I'm going to put a pull-up resistor, a 1K pull-up resistor, to I/O pin 2. And that's very important. You really need to do that with a pull-up resistor. Don't just connect it directly to VCC, because then you'll get erroneous operation. The other thing I'm going to attach to I/O pin 2 is for an application program that I'm going to load into the ESP-8266 microcontroller. I'm going to use this thing, which is a resistor and an LED in series, current limiting resistor, and I'm going to attach it from, this is the anode side, attach that from I/O pin 2, and I'll attach the cathode of the LED to ground. So I'll be able to control the lighting of that LED from the microcontroller once it's programmed, and that'll be used in the application program that I'll show how it's downloaded into this board at that time. Next thing I need is the programming cable. I'm using a C232HM, and it's a DD-HSL-0. That's the 3.3 volt version of this cable. Don't get the 5 volt version, because if you attach the 5 volt version to this board, you're going to blow up the chip. It needs to have a 3.3 volt supply. So this end goes into the USB plug, and then these flying leads over here are going to be connected to the 4 pins of the programming interface. And the red line is VCC, that's 3.3 volts. That's followed by the orange line. That is the receive line from the USB interface that goes over to the transmit line of the programming header. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. This is the transmit line of the programming cable, and it goes to the receive pin of the programming interface on the module. Then we take the receive line from the USB interface, and we attach that to the transmit line of the programming interface, and then we attach the ground pin. So that all looks correct. Then all we have to do is plug in the USB cable, and the little power LED has come on. Now we have to put the module into its programming mode, and the way you do that is hold down the programming button, and that pulls I/O pin 0 to ground. Pulse the reset line low by pressing and releasing the button, and then release the programming button. So once again, press, pulse the reset, and then release. Now I'm going to start and set up the Arduino environment for programming the ESP-8266 board. Double click on the Arduino icon. It brings up this screen. I'm now going to set it up to download the compiler and linker for the ESP-8266 board. And what I want to do is put this string into the additional boards manager URL, like that, and then hit OK. So that tells the Arduino environment where to get the compiler and linker from, but now we have to actually install that. So we go to Tools, go to Board, go to Boards Manager. Then in this Boards Manager dialog screen, we go to the bottom, and there's the ESP-8266 package. So what we're going to do is highlight that and install the latest version, which is 2.1.0. So we hit Install. And then down here we can watch the progress. I've already pre-downloaded the tools from a previous time, so it goes pretty fast there. Now when we highlight it, we see that it is installed. So now we can close that. Then under Tools, we want to select the board we'll be using. And the board is going to be the generic ESP-8266 module. We also want to set up the COM port. In this case, it's set to COM port 6, which is fine. That's where the USB cable that I showed previously, that's where it's mapped to. And set the upload speed. I'm going to set the upload speed to the maximum of almost a megabit per second. And the system will auto baud to match that speed. Okay, so that should set up my Arduino environment for programming the board. But what I need to do now is get something to program into the board. So I'm going to load an example. And in this case, I'm going to download, you probably can't see it, but I'm going to ESP-8266 Wi-Fi. And then I'm going to load the Wi-Fi web server. So that brings up this screen right here. And on this application, this is going to load a web server into the ESP-201 board, and I'll be able to do web accesses over Wi-Fi to turn that LED on and off that I attached to IO pin 2. What I have to do here is load in my SSID for my local Wi-Fi network and also load in the password for that. And then I can compile and download, compile and upload, which is the way the Arduino people look at it, as programming the chip as an upload into the chip. All I have to do is press this button. You can see the compilation progress reflected down here. And there's the upload. And it's done. The next thing I'm going to do is open a serial monitor to watch what the board does when I reset it. So I click on serial monitor. That opens the serial monitor screen. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the reset button, not holding on the prog button in this case. I'm going to just reset the microcontroller and allow it to start running the web server. When I do that, you can see in the serial monitor window that the board sends out some messages. It's connected to my local Wi-Fi network. It started the web server, and my local Wi-Fi router has assigned it an IP address, 192.168.0.104, and I can use that to access the web pages on the web server, and I'll do that now. I'll open a browser window and I'll type in the address of that web page, 192.168.0.104, followed by GPIO, and then /1 to turn the LED on. And the LEDs come on, and I get a web page back. Now I can turn it off by changing the 1 to a 0, and the LED's off. Turn it back on again. LED's on. Turn it back off. LED goes off. Okay, so the LED is capable of being turned on and off using accesses to web pages on the web server running on the ESP-8266 board. So I've showed how to set up the programmer hardware for the ESP-201 module. I've shown how to set up the Arduino environment, how to download or upload, as the case may be, how to upload code into the ESP-201 board, and then how to access the web server that runs in the board when you load that application. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for watching.